Has my life really come to this? Am I seriously doing an in-depth analysis of Dora the Explorer? Well, I would say let's just get this over with, but you've seen the runtime. This is probably another 2-hour video. In 1995, Chris Gifford, Valerie Walsh, and Eric Weiner developed a show called The Knockarounds, about a group of forest animals led by an explorer raccoon, which they pitched to then Nickelodeon president Albie Hecht, who instead greenlit a pilot for Me and My Friends, based off a pitch from Nick Jr. executive Janice Burgess, which I'm sure won't amount to anything. After the rejection, they decided to change the raccoon to a human girl named Nina of Irish descent, modeled after Gifford's daughter, and reworked the show into Nina's Pop-Up Puzzle, and a pilot was produced. But then, in May 1998, Nickelodeon executive Brown Johnson went to a conference that revealed that Latino children felt underrepresented on television, and so requested the main character be made Hispanic, changing her name to Dora the Explorer. As of 2005 at least, each episode cost $500,000, and if you remember, the Blue's Clues pilot only cost $150,000. Where did all that money go? There was apparently big pressure from Nickelodeon to create their next big hit after Blue's Clues and Little Bear, so the creators decided to combine the narrative focus of Little Bear with the interactivity of Blue's Clues. Blue's Clues also technically had a narrative focus, but I digress. By the time the show aired, the only character remaining from their original pitch was Swiper the Fox, and even he almost didn't make the cut, as Nickelodeon's researchers thought he'd be a bad role model and too scary for kids, even though that's the point, he's supposed to be an antagonist.
Well, the chart says...
I'm not asking the charts, I'm asking you!
Well, the chart says...
You are everything that's wrong with entertainment!
But the creators stood their ground and fought to keep him in, as they saw him as a key source of conflict and kid empowerment. Good on them, though the researchers were right about the latter. For me, at least. On August 14th, 2000, Dora the Explorer made its TV debut.
And now, a knock-knock joke from Nick Jr.
Knock-knock.
Who's there?
Door.
I see that it's a door. Door who?
Dora. Hi, I'm Dora.
Dora the Explorer, a new play-along adventure coming this summer to Nick Jr.
Just for me.
Huh, it's almost like a metaphor. Like Blue's Clues, Dora is a show that probably doesn't need reintroduction, but also like Blue's Clues, I'm doing it anyway. Dora the Explorer follows the titular character, Dora Marquez, a 7-year-old Latina girl who in every episode is allowed to go on an adventure throughout her world without adult supervision, unless you count her map, who is seemingly omniscient, voiced by Mark Weiner of Weinerville, no relation to series co-creator Eric Weiner, who at first portrays the character pretty close to his natural speaking voice.
Well, I know how to get to the big red hill.
But as the series continues, raises the pitch and adopts a tone that makes everything he says sound very sarcastic.
We need to be like knights and help the princess in the princess garden.
She's also accompanied by Backpack, who carries every object she ever might need. Her anatomy confuses me. She has a mouth but eats through her head.
Yum, 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 yum. Delicioso.
Last but not least is her 5-year-old monkey friend Boots, named for his red boots, and on her adventures is also helped by us, the viewer, as we answer her questions, much like in Blue's Clues, though unlike in Blue's Clues, they don't dub in child voices, the characters will simply pause to leave space for an answer.
Could you check the map for us and find out how to get to the big red hill? You have to say map.
Or the audience will be represented by a blue cursor, since in the same way Blue's Clues takes place inside a picture book, Dora the Explorer takes place inside a 90s point-and-click computer game. There's also more of an attempt to fake interactivity, like having the audience catch an important object or we repeat a certain motion, as if that's gonna help. Unlike Steve, who while you can speculate his stupidity is an act, it's still a deliberate character quirk, Dora's stupidity is merely a result of the show's format that, requiring her to play dumb so the audience can help. She has no legitimate character flaws. Always smart, always selfless, and always capable. Which I get the idea of having your protagonist be someone your child audience can really look up to. It's just that at a glance, you might mistake her for an audience surrogate, when in reality that role was filled by Boots, who despite being a talking monkey, is a far more realistic child character. Excitable, anxious, and emotional. He's kind of adorable.
Look at him in his wee little boots.
There's also Issa the iguana. She's a girl. Tico the squirrel, who mostly speaks Spanish and is inexplicably a master of vehicles at age 7. And Benny, a clumsy bull with a heart of gold. The most frequent obstacle in Dora and Boots' way is Swiper, also voiced by Mark Wiener, a fox with kleptomania, who despite his voice is also explicitly a child, and will come in to try and swipe an important object from the heroes, but is easily stopped by hearing the phrase "swiper no swiping" 3 times. Say it fast though, or else you'll be too late.
You'll never find it now.
Except they're always able to find it quickly with help from us. But no matter where they go, Swiper always finds them and tries to swipe their stuff. A fact they even lampshade.
There's no way Swiper could be in outer space. Is there?
Found family strikes once again, as while we do meet a lot of Dora's family, they're all minor characters compared to Dora and Boots. Boots you might assume is an orphan, but no, we meet his mother in Season 2 and his father, an architect, in Season 3. His sisters also make a brief cameo, but are never seen or heard from again. Swiper and Benny are totally orphans though, as we only ever meet their grandparents. We meet Tico's mother, father, and cousins, but none of Issa's family. Other characters include Senor Tucan, who only speaks Spanish, and Val the Octopus, who holds many jobs. Both of them appear in less and less as the show continues. On the flip side, there's the Big Red Chicken, the Pirate Pigs, and the Grumpy Old Troll, who won't let anyone cross his bridge unless they solve his quote-unquote riddles, all of whom appear more and more as the show continues. And finally, there's the Fiesta Trio, again voiced by Mark Wiener, a frog, grasshopper, and snail who follow Dora and Boots playing a fanfare whenever they're successful, but in later episodes do become actual characters with some focus. Season 1 has some rough animation. I don't think they draw the characters the same way twice. As the show continues, the animation gets more polished, the colors more vibrant, but what that really means is it loses whatever personality it first had, as it's still very stilted and unexpressive, and the show would never get good at consistent size or perspective. On paper, Dora's formula seems far less rigid than Blue's Clues, but watching it, you'll notice the show has a few common plot archetypes that it frequently comes back to, like one of Dora's friends being in trouble and needing rescuing, needing to retrieve an important object from far away, Dora and Boots meeting a new friend that needs to be returned home, or Dora and Boots entering a book to save one or more of its inhabitants. I can't tell you how many times they have to patch the holes in an object with simple shapes, or a character only speaks Spanish, or Boots falls for one of Swiper's dumb disguises. And much like Blue's Clues, there's certain songs in every episode. Unlike Blue's Clues, Dora has a proper theme song from start to finish. Whenever the map is summoned, he'll sing his song and give Dora 3 stops, which he repeats ad nauseum.
Stairs, bridge, party house. Stairs, bridge, party house. Stairs, bridge.
Alright, I get it!
And at the start of the show, Dora would repeat them directly after that, and they would continue to be repeated with them checking off the stops along the way, and singing them many times in the travel song, which in Season 1 is sung 3 times an episode. There's also the backpack song whenever Backpack is summoned, and we did it at the end of episodes. By the end of Season 1, I was already completely burnt out on the show, and compared to Blue's Clues, I find its educational value value questionable. On top of its central curriculum, each episode of Blue's Clues would focus on a different skill or topic, which helped create variety. Dora doesn't do that, at least in the first season. They all teach the same very basic things: rudimentary Spanish, counting, identifying shapes, and spatial awareness, which is just another reason I got so sick of this show so quickly. Unlike previous shows, I really want to get into the airing history of this show, as it's the strangest one yet. Nickelodeon was so confident in it that on August 14th, 2000, they premiered not one, not two, but 3 episodes: Lost and Found and Legend of the Big Red Chicken back to back as part of the Nick Jr. block at 11, and Choo Choo at 8. New episodes would air weekly or bi-weekly on the Nick Jr. block until December 4th, after which the show went on hiatus before returning in 2001, with new episodes every weekday from April 30th to May 4th. The show returned to primetime with a little star, probably because of the nighttime setting, as it's otherwise forgettable save for the ending of Everyone Wishing. Then came another hiatus before another 4 episodes premiered from September 24th to October 29th. The one remaining episode wouldn't air until March 4th, 2002, after season 2 had already started airing, in prime time at 8, that being Backpack, which despite being a flashback episode showing Dora getting her backpack, is actually rather unremarkable. The only change to the formula is that Backpack is used more than usual. The primetime episodes of this show feel randomly selected, at least early on. A common take I've seen from the adults who actually like this show, who, believe it or not, do exist, is that there was a charm to the first 4 seasons that was lost in the latter 4, which I didn't start to see until season 2. Season 2 is an undeniable improvement over 1. While I wouldn't call it good per se, the episodes are far more memorable and creative in terms of premise and set pieces, and it seemed like there was a desire to shake up the formula more often. There's way more stupid moments for me to laugh at, and I wouldn't say this show is completely unself-aware. It deliberately runs on kid logic, which does make it more interesting. They also mercifully cut down the travel song from being sung 3 times an episode to 2 times an episode, which, believe it or not, does make a huge difference. And the map and backpack songs are now often shortened. While better overall, as weird as it's gonna sound, I do think there's an edge to that first season which is largely absent from the following seasons. Characters were allowed to just be assholes and that be the end of it, and danger felt very real. Compare the season 1 episode Choo Choo to the season 2 episode The Golden Explorers. In the former, Azula Train's competition are complete assholes who scoff at him for being small, and they don't even have them redeemed at the end. Also, one of the obstacles is trying to avoid colliding with another train. In the latter, while the rival team, the Dinosaurs, looks tough, they're pretty nice to Dora's team from start to finish.
We're the Golden Explorers!
Good name!
Compare the bear in season 1's Berry Hunt to the bear in season 2's Hide and Go Seek. In the former, in a reference to we're going on a bear hunt, Dora and Boots have to hurry back the way they came, all while being chased by a hungry bear until he gives up. That's pretty intense for a little kid. In the latter, they wake up a bear but are able to escape him with ease. It doesn't seem like the bear even notices them. That whole episode seemed interesting at first with us being it, but then we find Dora first, so it just becomes business as usual. Also, Dora uses the map to find her friends, which definitely seems like cheating. Of course, the most obvious examples of the show losing its edge are the portrayal of the antagonists, Swiper the Fox and the Grumpy Old Troll. In the first season, the former is portrayed as a completely one-dimensional villain that the heroes feel no sympathy towards. But in this season, we get several episodes humanizing him. In the Christmas episode, A Present for Santa, Swiper is ready to swipe the present, but when Boots tells him it's for Santa, he gives it back. Santa being voiced here by a Backstreet Boy.
Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad.
Okay, the magic of Christmas can warm even the coldest of hearts, sure. But then at the end of Pinto, the Pony Express, they give Swiper, who's been trying to steal them the whole episode, the last cowboy cookie without him even asking nicely. What kind of message is that supposed to send to kids? Blue's Room did this better.
What should the wolf do if he wants to have some banana bread? Right, he should ask Grandma.
A letter for Swiper ends with them delivering Swiper stickers sent by his grandma. Yeah, despite him being a child and his grandma seemingly being his closest living relative, they still don't live together. Maybe that's a Fox thing. Maybe Swiper acts out because he's an orphan. Who knows? He does at least say thank you this time.
Thanks for delivering my mail.
And in whose birthday is it? It turns out it's Swiper's birthday, so everyone celebrates. They turned this episode into one of those personalized DVDs where you could replace Swiper with your kid. As for the grumpy old troll, in season 1, he actually lived up to his name, becoming giddy at the thought of stumping Dora in boots and exasperated when they'd inevitably win, swearing he'd get them next time. In season 2's The Happy Old Troll, we make him happy, and from here on out, he's pretty much grumpy in name only. Season 2 premiered on February 13th, 2002 with the episode Lost Squeaky as part of the Blues Beach Party event. Next was The Missing Piece on February 18th at the end of a Dora marathon, a memorably weird episode. The next 3 episodes premiered on March 5th, 12th, and 18th as part of Nick Jr.'s Watch and Munch event. El Dia de las Madres on May 8th to coincide with Mother's Day. And then the show didn't return until September 16th, another week of premieres. A Letter for Swiper premiered on October 14th at the end of a Swiper marathon, though in most of these episodes, Swiper doesn't have a notably bigger role than usual. Click premiered on November 5th, Rapido Tico, one of my favorites, premiered on the 18th, A Present for Santa on December 11th at 8 p.m. as part of Nickmas. Blue's Clues' Christmas episodes never got the primetime treatment. Super Map and Lost Map ended another Dora marathon on January 20th, 2003. Dora La Musica premiered a week later on January 27th. Egg Hunt premiered at 8 p.m. on Easter Sunday, 2003. 4 more episodes from April 28th to May 19th as part of Nick Jr. Play Along Time, where they'd air back-to-back new episodes of Dora and Blue's Clues, followed by back-to-back reruns. Beyond the Circus Line aired on July 14th, and Whose Birthday Is It was held off until June 14th, 2004 to air as part of a marathon of birthday episodes. The final episode of Season 2, Super Spies, didn't air until December 3rd of 2007, after Season 3 had already finished and in the middle of Season 4. Yeah, Nickelodeon took a ridiculously long time to air these first 4 seasons, as you'll continue to see. Season 3 continues the momentum of Season 2 to the point where I once again have to declare that a 3rd season is my favorite. Big shocker. It's probably the show in its most recognizable form. The characters going from yelling half their lines to 90% of them. Okay, that might sound like a very bad thing, but I digress. And with this season came a brand new intro, unless you count that random Season 2 episode. Gone is the computer game intro, as you might call it, which is fitting seeing that by the end of this season they pretty much abandoned the 90s computer game aesthetic, which in this season they replicate with really crappy flash animation. To be fair, edutainment PC games were definitely fading from relevancy as this season aired, so I don't exactly blame them. It just makes the show stand out just a little bit less. But hey, in its place, we've got a brand new mechanic in the form of Explorer Stars. At a random point in most episodes, these Explorer Stars will appear and we'll catch them all. Really, all it adds is that a spotlighted Explorer Star will eventually be used to get them out of a sticky situation towards the end, which they already had backpack for. We continue to see the redemption of Swiper. In the Lost City, we have to find his lost glove for him, along with everyone else's lost junk. And in the Halloween episode, Boo, Dora gives him some candy after he says trick or treat. The grumpy old troll straight up accompanies Dora and friends on an adventure in the Fix-It Machine, an episode with a bizarre fixation on holes.
Did the boot go in the hole? Tico's going down into the hole to get your boot. Now we have to get Tico up out of the hole.
They knew what they were doing. So far, this might not seem that positive. How is this my favorite season? But what it really comes down to is it just has most of my favorite episodes. Best Friends, Journey to the Purple Planet, Boots' Cuddly Dinosaur, all standout episodes, whether it be for their creativity, how they play with the formula, or for being so sweet even I'm moved by them. And Baseball Boots gives Boots an actual asshole rival again. This season introduces Dora's cousin, Diego, an animal rescuer, and his friend, Baby Jaguar. The former is depicted older here than he would become in his spin-off show, and subsequent Dora media, and Baby Jaguar can't speak English yet, which gives this mad joke a double meaning.
You can talk?
I could talk in the other world too.
You could? Huh, never noticed.
If you're wondering if I'm covering that show, it became popular and long-running enough in its own right that it would require a separate video, and none of the characters that originated from that show appeared in the Mega Music Fest, so you can't make me. Diego quickly becomes the main character, leading Dora and Boots on animal rescues in his introductory episode, as well as Baby Dino and To the South Pole, has somewhat prominent roles in Boots' Special Day, Dora Saves the Game, Boots' Cuddly Dinosaur, The Super Silly Fiesta, and Job Day, and is treated as part of the ensemble in Boo, Baseball Boots, and Dora's Pirate Adventure. Baby Jaguar appears alongside him in Job Day, Baseball Boots, and Dora's Pirate Adventure, and needs to be rescued by Dora and Boots alone in Rescue, 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 along with Benny and Issa. Roberto the Robot and his grandpa are also introduced in the episode fittingly titled Roberto the Robot, and become slightly recurrent characters for a little bit. By the end of the season, the default travel song is rarely sung. At best, you'll get a variation of it, but many episodes straight up replace it with their own unique travel song, which is a trend that continues in all following seasons. I'm the Map also gets new lyrics, the map now being backed up by the Fiesta Trio. Season 3 made its TV debut at 8 p.m. on February 24th, 2003, as Season 2 was still airing, with the episode The Lost City, which is my favorite episode of the whole show, so good choice. The season returned with 3 more episodes from October 8th through 10th, the third being Por Favor, premiering as part of another Swiper Marathon. Rescue, Rescue, Rescue premiered on the 13th, kicking off the Star Catching with Dora Marathon, followed by more new episodes on the 14th through 17th, the final also part of a marathon. Meet Diego premiered at 8 p.m. on the 20th, more new episodes on the 22nd through 24th, the third part of the Yet Another Marathon. Then Boo premiered on the 29th. Dora Saves the Game ended off a Day with Diego marathon on Veterans Day 2003. It's clear the spinoff was planned far in advance. The Super Silly Fiesta premiered at 8 p.m. on April 12th, 2004. It's a pretty memorable one, but not one of my favorites due to it actively trying to be funny, and it's a baby show, so it's never deliberately funny. Though I didn't feel the same way about Blue's Clues, so more new episodes April 20th through 22nd. Then the season didn't return until January 17th, 2005, with their first ever double-length episode, in production order, Dora's Pirate Adventure, which strangely didn't get the primetime treatment, but did end off a marathon of pirate-themed, or I guess treasure-themed episodes, so good enough. Their way of extending the runtime in this one seems to be just filling it with song numbers, which, to be fair, the music on the show is actually not that bad, so them doing that is actually not that bad. It has a very distinct sound. More new episodes on October 4th, 6th, and 28th, and finally, To the South Pole premiered on January 16th, 2006, as part of a Journey to the Center of Adventure Dora Diego Marathon. Yes, Go Diego Go had already started, which might have been confusing given the fact that the version of Diego introduced in that show is very different from the version first introduced in this show. With all these marathons, a TV movie, and a spin-off show, I think it's clear Dora was now one of Nick's cash cow franchises, which of course meant running it into the ground. Yay. Season 4 of Dora is very similar to Season 4 of Blue's Clues. Not in terms of quality, the latter is still far superior, but in terms of its place in the overall show. Both are a clear warning sign that the show was running out of steam and it was about time to pack it in, with a lot of, well, I don't want to say good episodes in Dora's case, but above average for this show. But also a lot of really boring episodes that demonstrate a lack of new ideas. But unlike Blue's Clues, which only had one full season left and then whatever the hell season 6 was, Dora would limp along for 4 more full-length TV seasons afterwards. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. Season 4 bizarrely starts with an episode entirely dedicated to introducing the Explorer stars, who already appeared in all of season 3, which aired primetime. My guess is this was at Nickelodeon's request, but they still screwed up by airing it after The Lost City. It's another origin episode that isn't particularly interesting besides more prominently featuring the focus characters. They immediately followed it with Dora's First Trip, another origin episode. This one introduces the lore that Boots and Tico were friends before any of the rest of them, before they even had Dora to translate, which is amusing. We also get the show's first straight-up sequel episode in the form of Super Spies 2: The Swiping Machine, and there would continue to be more and more until the show's end, a surefire sign that you're running out of ideas. I honestly liked it better than the original, though. Diego and Baby Jaguar continue to be prominent characters, and we get my personal least favorite episode of the show, A Crown for King Juan El Bobo, guest starring Cheech Marin as the titular character. Again, it's a baby show actively trying to be funny, but this time at the butt of the jokes is a grown man, which makes it all the more cringy. Dora gets a puppy, which she names Perrito, the Spanish word for puppy, and Dora's Got a Puppy, who is prominently featured in several episodes throughout the show. And she becomes a big sister to a twin brother and sister, Guillermo and Isabella, and big sister Dora, another very sweet episode, who are then prominently featured in Super Babies and Catch the Babies, which I also really don't like. I'm sorry, it's trying so hard to be cute it makes me sick. Nick also aired these episodes directly after because they think kids are stupid. On the flip side, Boots to the Rescue is another favorite of mine, being a Boots solo adventure with a song number that will never leave your head.
I speak Spanish and English too. I like them both. How about you?
This season ends with not 1, not 2, but 3 double-length episodes. Dora's Fairy Tale Adventure, Dora's Dance to the Rescue, and Dora's World Adventure. The latter 2 are inexplicably absent from streaming. All of them I would consider an improvement over the first, due to them extending the runtime not by padding it with song numbers, but mostly by creating adventures that feel higher scale than what they usually do. In Dora's Fairy Tale Adventure, Dora and Boots enter Fairy Tale Land, where a witch gives Boots a banana that puts him in a coma. To wake up, Boots must be hugged by a true princess, which Dora must go through several trials to become. Yeah, the show is pretty gender neutral up to this point, despite a female title character. This is the first time it feels a bit little girl pandering, but the show would get far worse about this as it goes on. Of course, Dora succeeds in these trials with help from us and her other friends, causing the witch to lose her power and Dora to transform into a princess outfit now available at your local toy store, and is able to wake Boots up. In Dora's Dance to the Rescue, Swiper lets an elf, voiced by Martin Short, out of a bottle, causing them to switch places, so Dora and Boots must travel to the castle to wish Swiper out. Realistically, it's probably on par with the previous one, but this is where my nostalgia bias has to come in to declare this one is indeed better. Even besides that, I do think this one more organically incorporates the side characters and has the better songs.
One big wish, un deseo. One big wish.
Though, unlike the previous, it does end with a half-assed villain redemption. I think you know how I feel about those.
I never wanted to be a bad spy.
Bullshit!
I'm a bad spy.
Dora's willing to make peace with a lot of people, but never witches. With the exception of this witch from a season 1 episode, and an ice witch in a later episode voiced by Hilary Duff. Finally, in Dora's World Adventure, it's Friendship Day, the day that everyone around the world comes together to celebrate friendship friendship and put on friendship bracelets. But Swiper flew his Swiper copter all over the world, swiping all the bracelets, which sounds like a very deliberate attempt to ruin the holiday, but after Dora tells him they're friendship bracelets, he agrees to fly back around the world to return all the bracelets with her. Yeah, Season 4 sees the full transformation of Swiper from an antagonist with a soft side to an on and off friend and enemy. We also get Swiper the Explorer, which for some reason didn't air until 2010 in primetime, where Dora and Boots help Swiper return a baby fox to his parents. I get it, you want to shelter kids from all the bad things in the world, and enemy is just a friend you haven't made yet and all that jazz, but I do think there's an importance to showing kids that the world isn't always sunshine and rainbows, and that not every bad guy secretly wants to be your friend. It also kills tension, because not only could Swiper be stopped by a simple command, but he could also be stopped by any sob story you tell him, and makes him rather two-faced when in some episodes he can be reasoned with, and in others he'll carelessly swipe important objects without a second thought. They travel to France, Tanzania, Russia, and China, specifically famous landmarks in those places, and meet Dora's friends from them. And yeah, the depiction of other cultures here is fairly stereotypical. Guess what the Russian boy's name is? You'll get it on the first try. But to some degree, it's understandable that when trying to simplify an entire culture for little kids, you're gonna mostly cover the surface level stereotypes, the first things you might think of when you think of these cultures. We also find out that every country has their own Swiper, seemingly unrelated but all still voiced by Mark Wiener, and all with those stupid blue masks and gloves. France has Fifi the skunk. Yeah, that name's already taken. Tanzania has Sammy the hyena. Russia has Fomka the dancing bear. And China has Ying Yang the weasel. It being Friendship Day allows for a ton of cameos, and starting with this one, the specials would air prime time. While Season 4 was half boring, Season 5 is mostly boring. It kind of feels like a back to basics season. There'd be cute and funny moments here and there, but I felt nothing most of the time. At best, it was serviceable, and at worst, it gave me nothing to work with or was very pandering. This is also when we start to see a lot of retreads. Dora and Boots return to Fairy Tale Land, and Dora saves the free little piggies, which also sees Swiper having to return what he's stolen. We get another Super Babies episode. Yay. Another pirate treasure hunt featuring the pirate piggies, and another Whizzle episode, and Dora helps the birthday Whizzle. The only standout standard length episode of this season for me is Benny's Big Race, and that's just because Benny the Bull is such a wholesome character that it's impossible not to love. Dora Saves Free King's Day aired primetime, and is only notable for that fact, and I guess the fact that it does highlight a more obscure holiday. It's worth noting that all the child voice actors were recast in this season. They even re-recorded the theme song, and it sounds awful. Boots' forgotten catchphrase is,
"That sneaky fox is always trying to swipe our stuff,"
which the later voice actors don't say nearly as iconically.
"That sneaky fox is always trying to swipe our stuff." "That sneaky fox is always trying to swipe our stuff."
They probably do better at the monkey noises, though just not as memorable. The Explorer stars are also completely removed, and Backpack becomes rarely used. Instead, this season's gimmick seems to be that Dora will frequently run into her friends from around the world, a continuity nod to Dora's World Adventure. Speaking of which, you thought Season 4 was crazy ending with 3 double-length episodes? Season 5 ends with 5. 5 for Season 5. I see what you did there. Dora saves the mermaids, Dora saves the Snow Princess, Dora saves the Crystal Kingdom, Dora's Big Birthday Adventure, and Dora's Christmas Carol Adventure. So in this one way, you could consider it the peak of the show. The first of these, Dora Saves the Mermaids, inexplicably has the old voice actors. I thought maybe the episode list I was using was wrong, but official sources do refer to it with this production code, which would make sense as it gives all of the first 5 seasons an even 26 production slots. They just randomly decide to bring back the old voice actors for this one special. special. Dora and Boots are on the beach picking up trash when they run into a clam who tells them the story of a mermaid kingdom where everyone was happy until an octopus started dumping his trash there. Yep, it's an environmental message. Conveniently, just as the clam finishes his story, the crown needed to save the kingdom washes up on the shore, so Dora and Boots must travel there to deliver the crown. Swiper falls for another sob story.
Oh man, I really like swiping. But I really like the mermaids.
They get help from the pirate piggies and Diego and run into Tico and Benny. They're ready to give the crown to the mermaid leader, but she gets trapped by the octopus. So Dora puts on the crown, transforming into a mermaid form now available at your local toy store, and rallies all of the sea creatures to clean the trash. They also work together to free Mariana, and the octopus doesn't even put up a fight and ends up in his garbage. And I guess after seeing how bad it smells, realizes he shouldn't dump in the ocean and should recycle, but in real life, trash gets dumped in the ocean due to negligence, not some jackass driving around dumping trash just for fun. Whatever, it's still about on par with the season 4 specials. Dora Saves the Snow Princess is the first to ditch the standard intro in favor of a fancy CG intro. Dora and friends are having story time, reading the story of a snow princess who gets trapped at the top of the tallest tower by a witch who hates snow. The snow fairy somehow notices Dora from inside the book, and they weirdly make a big point out of Dora looking like the snow princess, despite them not looking much more similar than they do to any of the other human girl characters. She doesn't even have Dora's trademark football head. They all go inside the book, which I honestly think was unnecessary, since at a certain point Dora and Boots become split off from the rest of the group when Boots gets stuck on an iceberg, and they don't even come back until We Did It at the very end. It's probably the weakest special so far, even more than the pirate one, but still not bad and better than most of this season. Dora Saves the Crystal Kingdom starts with the same CG intro, and also a storybook backstory, and also an opening number about how happy everyone is. This story is about a kingdom where all the colors are powered by 4 crystals: red, yellow, blue, and green, before they're stolen by the greedy king, voiced by Richard Kind. He hides all the crystals except for the red one, which he keeps in his hat. A girl named Allie tries to rally the townsfolk to find the crystals, but they'd all rather have fun, which kind of lowers the stakes when the lack of color doesn't really seem to affect anyone. Dora kept the crystal the Snow Princess gave her, which attracts Allie, who's way smaller than her for some reason, so together they retrieve all the crystals, bringing color back to the kingdom, making everyone very happy, teaching the king that it's better to give than to receive. That's nice. But maybe he takes it a little too far by giving Allie the crown. Yeah, I thought this one was just a little bit worse. Dora's Big Birthday Adventure is the show's 10th anniversary special. That's also inexplicably not on streaming. When they first aired it, they followed it with a mini doc called Dora, the Girl Heard Round the World, which unfortunately appears to be lost media. It has another unique intro, this time in a paper cutout style. Dora and Boots have had many big adventures lately, but now's time to return home to the rainforest for Dora's 8th birthday. They even sing a heartfelt song filled with callbacks and references. And if there's one time you can get away with a clip show, it's your 10th anniversary special. Before they can make it home though, a strong wind carries them away to Whizzle World, where they're told the wishing whistle at the top of Whizzle Mountain can send them home using the crystal the Snow Princess gave Dora. So they venture there, remembering more past episodes on the way, while escaping a witch who wants to steal the crystal and her flying monkeys. Yeah, it's a Wizard of Oz reference. She even meets a scarecrow along the way. Of course, they return home and literally everyone is there. I liked this a bit more than the previous two and the pirate one, but not the others. I appreciate all the callbacks though, even if some of them feel forced. Makes watching every episode feel like a little bit less of a waste. Finally, there's Dora's Christmas Carol Adventure, which I already did a full review of. Don't watch that video, it's terrible. Season 6 is more of the same. There's another Super Babies episode, another Halloween episode, which this time I would say is about on par with the original, another Big Red Chicken magic episode, like they had last season, the grumpy old troll gets married, and there's a sequel episode to Season 3's Journey to the Purple Planet called Baby Winky Comes Comes Home, which is actually the highlight of the season for me. I will say, I do think they went really hard with the music this season, which is evident by the primetime 22-minute episode of the season, Dora's Ballet Adventure, which has a heavy focus on music. You go from 5 specials in season 5 to just 2 in this season, which can be taken as a sign that this show was on its way out, along with the fact that from this season onward, the episode orders were reduced from 26 to 20. They'd long outlived all their original peers and were now on a very different Nick Jr. on a very different Nickelodeon. In the same way they overshadowed Blue's Clues, the show that inspired it, Dora was starting to be overshadowed by the shows it helped create. The first of these, Dora Saves King Unicornio, is actually a sequel to the episode right before it, Tale of the Unicorn King, hence them having the same special intro labeled under Dora's Enchanted Forest Adventures. And the character of Unicornio actually first appeared in the season 5 episode, Issa's Unicorn Flowers. Unicornio has been chosen to be king of the Enchanted Forest, so Dora and Boots take him to the castle while completing 4 trials along the way. Dora Saves King Unicornio starts off how all of these specials start now, with an opening number about how everyone is happy. I guess the problem when going in production order is that it isn't always continuity order, because this episode actually takes place after Dora and Diego save Atlantis, which was produced right after and also aired after, so either way it's screwed up. In that episode, Unicornio puts the owl, voiced by Jason Alexander, in charge of the kingdom while he saves Atlantis. Here we see the consequences, which are that Owl oppressed everyone with his rules and has been able to stay in power by distracting Unicornio with a broken dam. So of course, Dora and Boots have to help him and return him to the crown while still making nice with Owl and helping others along the way. Definitely the weakest of the specials so far. Compared to the rest, it kind of drags in the middle. Dora's Royal Rescue brings back the season 5 special intro and starts with everyone LARPing, which gets the attention of a horse who mistakes Dora for a real knight.
And you, my lady, are the most enchanting and beautiful lady knight that I have ever seen.
Bad touch! Bad touch! Stranger danger!
He needs her to save his master, Don Quixote, from an evil wizard who hates books. Dora rides the horse, who reluctantly allows Boots to join them on their quest, riding on an ass. The wizard actually successfully takes all their books, causing the noble forest to disappear, but Dora and Boots are able to bring it back by drawing their own book. They save Don Quixote and stop the wizard, and of course it turns out the only reason he hates books is because he can't read, but Don Quixote can teach him, so everything's just honky-dory. Most of these characters reappear in the very next episode, which is hilariously stupid, and the season ends on a high note with another hilariously stupid episode, Swiper's Favorite Things. Even if that one does retread the Christmas Carol adventure a little bit, with Dora going on an adventure with Swiper where they force him to resist his urge to swipe. Season 7 sees the show switch to widescreen HD, and with that comes a brand spanking new intro, which is definitely my least favorite iteration. There are 4 episodes this season which have a special intro despite being standard length. Dora's Easter Adventure, where they make the Easter Bunny rap, Dora's Fantastic Gymnastics Adventure, Dora's Rescue in the Mermaid Kingdom, a sequel to Dora Saves the Mermaids, and Dora Rocks. And confusingly, of those episodes, only Dora's Fantastic Gymnastics Adventure and Dora Rocks even aired prime time, the former as a double act with Team Mizumi, in a perfect illustration of the show's fading relevancy. With the switch to HD, they also decide to add a lot of CG, including for the map and backpack segments, as rare as the latter has become, and it looks terrible. I don't know what they were thinking. I also swear they started artificially pitching up some of the kid voices.
It's really hard to paddle through all this seaweed, Dora.
On top of an official Easter episode, we also finally get Thanksgiving and Father's Day episodes. Pinto returns in A Ribbon for Pinto, late-stage recurrent characters are introduced in the form of the kittens in Dora's Moonlight Adventure, which is the best standard-length episode of the season due to at least having some creativity with its visuals. Checkup Day very much feels like a combination of Season 2's Dr. Dora and last season's Dora's Hair-Raising Adventure, and we meet the Maps nephew nephew, which he somehow has, Little Map. None of this is relevant because most of it is still really boring. But this season does have what I consider the show's last hurrah, which is the TV movie of the season, Dora in Wonderland. No episode would come close to this level of quality again. And I once again must stress that a good episode in this show would still be below average for most other shows. As usual, it has a unique intro. The kittens go through the mirror and follow the white rabbit, voiced by Alan Cumming, out the door, so Dora and Boots follow them. Weirdly, everything being sentient is used as a sign that this is Wonderland, even though that's pretty normal in the Dora universe. The Mad Hatter, voiced by Mel Brooks, helps them across the Wonder Sea. They run into Bandersnatch, portrayed by the Big Red Chicken, and Tweedledee Tweedledum, portrayed by Tico and Benny. It's weird how they picked and chose which characters would be played by Dora characters, and which would be more straightforward interpretations voiced by celebrity guests. The Cheshire Cat, female in this version and voiced by singer-songwriter Jewel, she helps us make it through the forgetful forest by telling us to remember our names. They finally meet the Queen of Hearts, voiced by Sarah Ramirez, who apparently takes things from her subjects to give to the Knave of Hearts, portrayed by Swiper, so he won't steal her tarts. Dora, of course, is able to stop Swiper and convince everyone to be friends. Season 8 has 3 standard-length episodes with some sort of special intro: Dora's Super Soccer Showdown, Dora's Great Roller Skate Adventure, and Dora's Ice Skating Spectacular. Only the latter two actually aired prime time. Both Dora's Super Soccer Showdown and Dora's Ice Skating Spectacular very much feel like rehashes of older episodes. The former a rehash of Season 2's The Golden Explorers, and the latter a rehash of Season 5's Dora Saves the Snow Princess. And also in this season, the Big Red Chicken is always accompanied by little chicks. In Dora and Diego in the Time of Dinosaurs, Dora and Diego travel back in time to meet dinosaurs, calling back to Christmas Carol Adventure, despite it being well established that dinosaurs still walk the earth in the Dora universe. This is pretty easily the worst season for me. The previous 3 all had at least one standout episode on top of the specials. In this season, there's not one episode that strikes me as above average. At best, I'd say that was cute. Even the TV movie of the season, Dora Saves Fairy Tale Land, is a blatant rehash of Season 4's Dora's Fairy Tale Adventure. So it's probably for the best that Nick decided to pull the plug here, since by the end it really feels like the writers were just as burnt out as I was watching the whole show. The final episode produced, Dora's Nightlight Adventure, is not a grand finale by any means, but does at least bring the show full circle, retelling the legend of the Big Red Chicken from the first episode produced. If I had to rank each season worst to best, I'd go Season 8, Season 7, Season 5, Season 1, Season 6, Season 4, Season 2, and number 1, Season 3. So I guess you guys were right that the show fell off in its latter half. Dora last aired on Nickelodeon on June 5th, 2014, with Dora's Super Soccer Showdown, leaving 6 episodes unaired, including the TV movie and the series finale. But of course, Nickelodeon wouldn't really let Dora die, as 2 months later they premiered Dora and Friends Into the City, which followed an older Dora and her human friends going on similar interactive adventures, and ran for 2 seasons until 2017. It came after the Mega Music Fest, so like Diego, maybe I'll review it at some point, just not for a very long time. I need a break. In 2019, a live-action film was released called Dora and the Lost City of Gold, which also starred an older Dora, and was more of a tongue-in-cheek parody of the original show, and also got a direct-to-streaming follow-up in 2025 with a completely different cast. To promote the new movie, Nick decided to finally air those last 6 episodes: Dora Saves Fairy Tale Land and Let's Go to Music School on Nickelodeon, and the other 4 on the Nick Jr. channel. Strangely, the episodes The Happy Old Troll and Dora's Great Roller Skate Adventure never aired on Noggin or Nick Jr. channel. Dora would continue to rerun on Nick Jr. until 2020, and has briefly returned as late as 2024. And in 2024, Paramount Plus debuted a CG reboot of the show with 11-minute episodes developed by much of the the same team and with some returning voice actors, simply called Dora, which looks terrible. The original show's animation was subpar, but at least aesthetically pleasing. And with the Paramount Skydance merger, will be ending after its 5th season. They produced 5 seasons in 2 years. So I guess now's the time I talk about how Dora fits as a part of the bigger picture of Nick Jr. Dora the Explorer is undeniably the most successful thing to come out of Nick Jr. besides PAW Patrol. And I believe it is their longest running show, besides PAW Patrol. But unlike Blue's Clues, it's also their most hated show, often used as an example of the worst of preschool television. A reputation that is reflected in how I've talked about the show previously.
Most people know about Dora and dislike it. Most people know the problems. It treats its audience like they're stupid.
But after watching every episode, I don't think that reputation is deserved, but I know it was mostly a result of oversaturation. And trust me, by the end of it, I hated it too. But it was never supposed to appeal to adults. Of the Nick Jr. shows I've dedicated videos to, this is definitely the worst, and it's not even close. Fresh Beat Band looks like a masterpiece compared to this show. Far more entertaining. But you already know it's bad and why it's bad. So instead of comparing it to shows that are obviously better, it'd be far more productive to compare it to a show that I feel does embody the worst of kids TV. Fresh Beat Band of Spies. To me, no part of that show feels like there was any effort or passion behind it. It feels like it was made purely out of obligation. It doesn't even try to enrich the lives of its young viewers, but rather distract them for 20 minutes. If I had kids, I wouldn't let them watch it because I think it'd make them dumber. My misgivings about Dora would more so be a fear that it would get very annoying. It feels like the people making this show genuinely wanted to make something that was good for kids. And as I've said before, I can't hate a show for that. Even at the end, be honest, would you do any better if you were in their position? Who knew that such a massive franchise could spawn from a failed pitch? So tune in next time when another failed pitch takes on a whole new form and life of its own.